So here's the thing about 35 videos in a year. You end up with 35 paintings to hang on the wall. So, here I am, going through the last few paintings trying to decide where they will go on the wall. Or, if they even will go on the wall. That one probably won't go. But then I remembered something. I have recently made playlists on the YouTube channel for the different types of paintings. You should check them out, by the way. And it dawned on me that I was missing a couple of paintings for my Bat Family series. So I knew what I had to do. I can hang paintings later. Went to the computer, pulled up Google, and searched for my reference. You see, I have this corner of the office that is the Bat Family. It is obviously mostly Nightwing, but here you can start to see the Robins, Tim Drake, Damian Wayne, some iconic villains, and spoiler. But we're going to be replacing this Red Hood painting to a more classic look for Jason Todd, like this Funko Pop. Partly because I like the look better, and partly because the footage was corrupted and lost from the video when I did it last year. So I found my reference. It's time to get started. So with this being a slightly bigger canvas than my usual size here lately, I'll be using my T-square, if I can find it, to draw a grid onto the canvas. Now when I'm using a T-square, I'm not looking to make perfect, exact spaced out lines. I actually prefer my lines to have imperfections. It actually helps me with the sketching process. Once the lines are down, I take a picture and go into Procreate, and I overlay the reference. I then size and line it up to give me the best possible sketching reference. I then export my new reference into my Dropbox and then download it to my computer and pull it up on the monitor in front of my drawing table. And now the sketch. At this point I'm thinking I may have bit off more than I can chew on this piece. But I always think that at some point during my pieces. Now the sketch is done and I'm just trying to lighten up the grid lines as much as possible. I went in and laid a red base coat over the whole painting. And here I'm coming through with a darker red to touch up on the background. Just trying to cover up those grid lines as much as possible. You seeing me hold my phone as I paint is going to be a theme of this video, until I can figure out a better way for close-ups. Here I am laying in the base coat. Now there are only 4 colors for the base coat here: brown, gray, red, and black. It made this part relatively easy. I tried using some more opaque paint here to cover up the grid lines, but at the same time I didn't want to lose my guidelines on the sketch. That's why you can see some red lines there. But then I came back and covered them up because I knew I could figure it out. I mixed my black with some glazing medium to start laying in some shadows and details, starting to give it a little more definition. I then mix up some white and glazing to add a little bit of highlights and more detail. I then glaze over the whole jacket with a heavy white, and then come back through and glaze it with a light brown to give the jacket a little more texture. Next up, it was the gray's turn to get mixed with glazing medium, and just going through and touching up places and making the details come more alive. Do the same with red on his mask and symbol. I then mixed in some darker red to go over the background one more time. Then it was time for a short break, pictures, whatnot. And here we're starting on the finer details. This is the part that scares me the most on paintings. I feel the fine details are where I lack the most, and I tend to rush them. Here I am deliberately taking my time, partly because I'm holding my phone in one hand, and partly because I know I just need to slow down on this process. I went real light with the paint on the brush. As you can see, I'm barely laying any paint down at all with these strokes. It's such a small part of the painting, and most people won't even notice if there's a mistake there. But I'll know. So I put the phone down and focus on the work for a little bit. Hard focused on getting that hand just right. I then moved on to his weapons, pants, belt, basically the lower portion of the painting. I worked my way around in a counterclockwise rotation on these details. Now it's time for hand number 2. And then a few interior details before I move on to his arm. Time for another phone close-up. As you can kind of see here, I lay in light and build up layers to get the effect I'm really looking for. And that glazing medium really helps with that. This close-up lasted a lot longer than I anticipated, but it's because I'm so focused. Here I am, holding a phone in one hand, painting with the other hand, while staring at a reference image to try to get it as close as I can. I have found not overlooking the little details adds so much. Like these dots. Up close, they look like dots. But when you look at the picture as a whole, they add to the definition of the arm. Back to full painting focus mode. Lay in the shadows and details on the jacket. And then to start finishing up the piece, all the little extra fine little details I've missed or need to touch up all around the painting. Go to lay in the white of his eyes, and then a few extra shadows and details. And the most important part of any painting, the signature. And there we have Jason Todd, Red Hood. Thanks for watching. Now on to the next.